Testing. Hello. 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 Testing. Testing.
Good evening, everyone. We're getting ready to get started in about 4 minutes. If you have any questions that you have not turned in to Ms. Tawana, raise your hand for me. She has index cards. Who else has index cards? Jackie over here has index cards, and Ken has index cards. Please make sure you turn in your questions to one of these good people, and we can get started in about 4 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gia Lewis, and I am the current president of the graduate chapter of the Pitt County National Pan-Atlantic Council. We welcome you to the 2024 Candidates Forum. The mission of NPHC is to promote social action, political empowerment, economic development, and to provide community service. Together, we are comprised of the 9 Greek letter organizations here in Pitt County. We are excited about this event as we encourage participation and civic engagement for all of Pitt County citizens. We encourage questions from the audience, and we have our members of NPHC located throughout the facility to provide you with cards as needed. Would those members please raise their hands to be seen now? Once your card is completed, we do ask that you raise it once again for it to be collected so that it can go through our screening process to have those questions answered on this evening. Again, we welcome you to this event, and I will now turn it over to our moderator, Mr. Robert Cherry.
Good evening. Please allow me to review the forum rules for this evening. First, this is not a debate. Again, this is not a debate. Substitutes or stand-ins for the candidate will not be allowed. To preserve a nonpartisan atmosphere during the forum, no campaign banners, signs, or other campaign paraphernalia will be allowed inside the room. Campaign literature may be placed on the designated table in the venue's foyer. As moderator, I will conduct the forum and have the responsibility to interrupt the proceedings and enforce the ground rules and format. Time limits are as follows. 2 minutes will be provided for opening statements from each candidate. 1 minute will be provided for responses to questions. 1 minute, 30 seconds will be provided for a closing statement from each candidate. A timekeeper will keep track of the time allotted to candidates as they speak. The timekeeper will hold up signs 30 seconds left and stop at the appropriate times to indicate that time is up. Our timekeepers for this evening are sitting here. They are Tara Perez and Taquan Black. Our mic runners this evening, Jonathan Metellus, Whitney Tarver, and Darnell Taylor. You'll raise your hands to be recognized. Thank you. And our screeners for questions, Sylvia Mazzell and Patty Sanders Smith. If you'll raise your hands to be recognized. Thank you. We will proceed with the forum beginning with our opening statements. Again, 2 minutes will be allotted for opening statements. We will begin with our U.S. House of Representatives candidate, George Cormos. You have 2 minutes to provide your opening statement.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So my name is George Cormos, and just to give you a little bit of background on me, originally I'm from Romania. I've traveled around a lot. I've ended up down here in Camp Lejeune as a DoD contractor. My motivation for even getting into this political game is basically what happened during the COVID, what I would call debacle, while many other people have various words for it. My biggest concern or my underlying theme of what I would like to do, should I get your vote, is work to take away the powers of the federal government to do what they did to us again. If anyone has not been paying attention, actually the powers to do the very same thing are still there. The only thing that has changed is that it has become politically unpopular to basically what I would say engage in oppression. With that said, for anyone who's got a chance out there, check me out, cormosforcongress.com, and you'll see that I basically have 4 platforms which I find that are probably the most relevant to our current societal and community issues. Just to rattle them off real quick, basically I'm running on a platform for actual debt reduction, and I'm not talking about reducing the increase. I mean actually bringing debt under control. My second platform that I'll be looking to do work on is marijuana reform. Whether you want to talk about recreational, medicinal, the fact of the matter is that that question belongs down with the states as per the 10th Amendment. My third platform is going to be qualified immunity reform. I think that there's a lot that we need to work on in our communities as far as the amount of power we allow people to exercise over us. And last but not least, I'm a supporter of the vouchers program throughout not just North Carolina, but throughout the U.S. in general. With that, I see my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will have an opening statement from our candidate for North Carolina Auditor, Robert Bob Drop.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Bob Drock. I'm a candidate for North Carolina State Auditor. I'm a certified management accountant and running for state auditor. Imagine that, an accountant for auditor. I'm the only accountant that's running for auditor. So check that out. Look at my opponents and check that out and decide if you think the auditor should be an accountant. Another reason to consider voting for me is that I'm independent. You know, the state government is dominated by Republicans and Democrats. I'm neither a Republican nor a Democrat. And the American Institute of CPAs says that an auditor should be independent in both fact and appearance. So I am in fact independent, and I don't have any appearance of conflict. So that's another reason to consider voting for Bob Drock, the most qualified candidate for state auditor. A couple other things about my biography. I worked for a company called Deloitte, major audit accounts tax consulting firm. I got an MBA degree from Stanford University. And early in my career, I did my public service as a Peace Corps volunteer, and I taught physics in a secondary school. So I've got kind of an eclectic background focused on accounting and audit and professional management, and I would love to work for the citizens of North Carolina and be your next auditor.
Thank you. Moving along in the order in which we're seated this evening, we'll now have opening statements from our NC House of Representatives candidates, beginning with Tim Reeder.
Thank you very much for being here. I think all of us were wondering what the order we were going to go into when we said, oh, we've got opening statements. So now we know. Thank you very much for putting on this forum tonight. I think it's a really good opportunity for us as candidates to get out to answer questions from our community and our citizens. I think that's what we are supposed to be doing. My name is Tim Reeder, and I'm an emergency physician is my day job. I work over at the School of Medicine. I see patients, and I teach in the medical school. The reason I'm running is for the last 25 years, I have spent working, taking care of the citizens of Eastern North Carolina. I see in my practice the failures and the problems in our society. I see the problems with the education system failure. I see the results of broken families. I see the results of a financial system that has left too many people behind. And from that work, I'm committed to trying to improve our communities. I think that the foundation of a community is built on really four things. It's a strong family unit, because that's where we get our support, that's where we get our strength. We need to have an educational system that works for everyone. Education is a key for someone's future. We need to have an economy that's growing, that people can have jobs to take care of their family, to educate their children. And finally, we need a healthcare system that operates to care for that foundational family. Those are the four pillars of what drives me in this role. Over the last 2 years in the North Carolina House, I think I've been a fierce advocate for Pitt County. We've been able to gather and garner a lot of resources back here to Pitt County that heretofore we didn't have. I think we'll get a chance hopefully tonight to talk about some of the things that we've done, whether it's money for the sewer system, for the education system, for all of those things that are going to help our community. So again, thank you very much for hosting us tonight. I really look forward to answering questions.
Thank you. Next, Claire Kempner.
Hi there. I have a loud voice, so I'm Claire Kempner. Thank you to NPHC of Pitt County for hosting this forum, and thank you to all of you who have come here to learn about the candidates. Thank you for being informed voters. My 3-year-old won't remember this election cycle, but one day when she asks me what I did in this moment to protect her freedoms, her freedom to vote, her freedom to attend and learn in a fully funded public school, and her freedom to make decisions about her own body, I'll be able to tell her that I did everything I could. And that's why I'm running to flip North Carolina State House District 9. I'm a mom of 3. I am a wife. Today is actually my 16th wedding anniversary. Giving back to my community has always been a priority for me. Since I was a teenager, I have volunteered in my community, starting from Humane Society, the United Way. I worked in a home that housed unhoused pregnant women and their children. In 2018, I began volunteering with state legislative campaigns and municipal campaigns, and I became the North Carolina Moms Demand Action chapter leader. I had no plans on running for office. I was asked to run. Running for office was something I said I'd never do, but never say never, right? Our basic personal freedoms are on the ballot, and I couldn't stand by and do nothing. I decided to do something, and we all need to do something. Together, we can change the future. We can vote for legislators who will give us an equal say in our democracy and elect leaders who govern in our name. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Glorstein Brown.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to apologize for my tardiness. I had a personal situation that I had to handle, and if I may have to leave and I may not, but I'm going to do what I have to do. But anyway, again, my name is Glorstein Brown, and I serve District 8 here in Pitt County for the North Carolina House of Representatives. This is my first term. I was the former mayor in Bethel, a total of almost 25 years in the political arena. I am here because I am a servant. I believe in serving. And I want to let you know that some of my issues are that I am here to stand with our women, to protect our freedom for our bodies. I am here to stand to protect our public schools, our environment, and our economic development climate, our climate control. So there's a lot of things that need to be done. And I have no problem with working across the aisles to get those things done. But I want these things done right, fairly, and equally across the board. So I'm going to continue to work. I'm going to continue to advocate for my district, for my state, and for everyone that is breathing under the sound of my voice. Thank you for having me here on tonight.
Thank you. Moving along, our NC State Senate candidates, beginning with Alexander Passion.
Thank you to the council for hosting this event. I think I speak for all the candidates here. Having a forum where we can engage directly with the voters is great to have. We welcome all your questions. My name is Alex Pascal. I'm running for the North Carolina State Senate District 5. That is all of Pitt County and all of Edgecombe County. North Carolina is in the news now. We're a battleground state. A lot of attention's being paid. Anybody who tries to watch the evening news or anything is just inundated with political ads. And that's because we're a purple state. This is a toss-up district. And I think that between Pitt County and Edgecombe County, it really is a purple district. I think a lot of us are tired of the red team versus the blue team. And we just want somebody who's going to be there, who shows up and does the work for us. I'm a millennial public defender Republican. Okay, I'm as purple of a candidate as you're going to find in politics. But with that gives me a lot of freedom to tell you exactly what I think, to tell you exactly where I stand on issues. And I've never blindly followed a party. I think most of us here never have either. I think that we're all looking for a candidate that's going to put the people of Pitt County and Edgecombe County first. My experience as a public defender, I think, puts me in a very unique position. As a public defender, I have to, a lot of my clients are at-risk populations. I see the same devastation that Dr. Reeder sees in his emergency room. We see what the results are of failed policy, broken families, and a criminal justice system that sometimes penalizes the poor. So look forward to explaining some of those positions to you tonight. I'll be around afterwards. I'll be accessible as well. At the very back is my card. That is my personal cell phone number. Please feel free to call it, and I look forward to earning your vote tonight.
Thank you. Candy Smith.
Good evening. It is an honor to be here with you to make sure that you hear the platform of all of these candidates. Education is key. I am your current senator for District 5, Candy Smith, serving Pitt and Edgecombe counties. Some of the things I want you to know is there's a lot of work still needs to be done. One thing that needs to be done is we need to break the supermajority, because when you have someone in the supermajority, they begin to think that any and everything has to be their way, and they're not willing to work across the aisles. That's an issue. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and we have that right now. I'm making sure that we are having a voice at the table when it comes to education. We know that we just gave $500 million to private education over public education. Now, one would play the shell game to make you think if it came from a different pot that's not affecting our public schools, that is not correct. Because if we're not funding our schools, that's an issue. And then for someone to tell a woman what to do with their body, after we've had Roe v. Wade for over 50 years, and then want to go back and roll back those things, and irregardless of whatever the situation is, that battle we shouldn't even be fighting right now. We shouldn't even be discussing it right now. It should not be on the table, but it is. Now, we have no rules that we've come up with that will limit what a man does, but they want to all of a sudden now come for a woman. Those things are happening far too much, and they cannot continue. So in me, you know you have a strong fighter. I am transparent, I am accessible, and I am willing to continue to work for you. So thank you again for allowing me to be here to share my platform. God bless you, and I look forward to this entire forum.
Thank you. Moving along to our candidates for Pitt County Commissioners, beginning with Mac Manning.
Good evening. My name is Mac Manning. Thank you to NPHC for hosting this candidate forum, and thank you all in the audience for showing up and participating. I look forward to hearing your questions in a little bit. I've been in public service since I was a teenager, when I first joined the volunteer fire department and rescue squad. And while I was doing a lot of jobs like, working at the hospital and delivering furniture, I was going to school. The culmination of my college education here at East Carolina University was to do a field placement with the Pitt County Sheriff's Office. And at the culmination of that field placement, the sheriff offered me initially a part-time job as a file clerk, so I can truly say I started at the bottom. But I moved into communications for 21 months, then was deputized, and that was the start of a great law enforcement career that I have thoroughly enjoyed, working here in Pitt County and serving those last 12 years as the elected sheriff. And now I have the time. Family circumstances prevented me from getting too involved for a number of years after I retired. But family circumstances have changed, and I have the time. And I would greatly enjoy getting back into serving my fellow citizens here in Pitt County. We are a thriving, growing county, and I would love to be a part of helping it along and guiding from the county commission seat. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bob Edwards.
Good evening. My name is Bob Edwards. I'm running for Pitt County Commissioner District B. I want to thank everybody, the organizers, for giving us this opportunity to speak to voters and speak to you all, and for you coming. I moved to Pitt County in 1995 when Terry and I moved our family here from Washington, D.C., for me to start a second career teaching sociology at East Carolina University. We've put down roots here, deep roots, broad roots. We raised our kids here. Our boys went through Pitt County schools or North Carolina public schools, from Elmhurst Elementary on through NC State. I'm running to give back to the community that we've chosen to live in, to finish out really our lives in. I've just recently retired from a career at ECU, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to give back to the community that we've chosen to live in. One of the things that I want to do if I get into office is to work with the commission to make decisions that build the quality of life for all people in all parts of Pitt County. I think to do that, we need to do at least three things. One is to fully support our public schools. The second is to promote economic development that is both sustainable and equitable. And we need to ensure that all groups and all people from all parts of the county are heard and listened to and have a voice and a representation in the process. And I would like to basically finish by saying that you don't know me and you won't have a chance to really know me before November, but I'm asking for you to trust me with your vote in November. And if you do, I'll spend the next 4 years earning that trust. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have opening statement from our NC Court of Appeals candidate, Carolyn Thompson.
Good evening. I have the pleasure and the honor of serving all of you on the North Carolina Court of Appeals, which is a statewide seat. It is in fact the second highest court that we have in our state on the appellate level. I was appointed by Governor Cooper over a year ago when Justice Allison Riggs was elevated to the Supreme Court. But before I got to this seat, I have 27 years of experience being a trial attorney for 13 years, a district court judge for 10 years, Superior Court judge, as well as a deputy commissioner presiding over cases when people are injured on the job. So I say all of that because my platform is based upon experience. We have really serious issues that I've actually presided over just this week on the bench that requires the kind of background, the right experience that I bring to the table to retain the seat as the incumbent. On a personal note, I'm not just a candidate. I'm a voter just like you are. And I understand that I'm looking through the lenses of justice, but I'm also bringing to bear my life experiences being a mom of a blended family of 5 adult children and 6 grandchildren who call me Nana. I am honored to continue to serve you in this capacity, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have opening statements from our NC Superior Court Judge candidate, Jeffrey Foster.
Good evening. I am Jeff Foster. I have graduated from public schools. My wife and I did in Beaufort County. We moved to Greenville. We graduated from East Carolina. I went to law school and I served 22 years as an attorney here in Pitt County, representing people who were charged with crimes, people who were hurt. I represented small businesses and churches throughout our county. And after 22 years, I sought a seat on the Superior Court bench when Judge Duke retired. I was unopposed in that seat, and I have served for the last 8 years as one of your 2 Superior Court judges. I come before you again. I'm unopposed again this time for another 8-year term. I'm very honored that that's the case. I believe it shows I've worked hard to be fair and prepared to handle the cases that come before me. I'm going to continue to do that, and I thank you for this opportunity to be here and spend some time with you this evening.
Thank you. Our District Court Judge candidate, Wendy Hazelton.
Good evening to everyone. I am Wendy S. Hazelton, your current District Court Judge. I was elected in November of 2016 after serving 10 years as an assistant public defender. Once I was elected, I was re-elected in 2020, even though I had opposition. I am happy to say that I am on the November ballot this year without opposition. For the last 8 years, I have been serving Pitt County, and it has been one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done. I spend most of my time in family court. So I am one of 3 family court district court judges. And that means I spend a lot of time listening to cases involving child support, child custody, equitable distribution, and alimony. I spend the other half of my time in juvenile court addressing issues that involve our juveniles that find themselves involved in the criminal justice system. Not only do I do that, but I also rotate through all of the other courts that we serve here in Pitt County. In July of 2020, I spearheaded the implementation of Pitt County's first behavioral health treatment court. In that court, we address individuals that have mental health diagnoses and they find themselves involved in the criminal justice system. So the basis of that court is to help those individuals maintain their mental wellness and not return to the criminal justice system. Thus far, we have graduated 6 individuals. We currently have 6 individuals in our court. We have 4 on the waiting list that will be joining us next Friday. And we are very excited about what we are doing for these individuals. So I thank you for the opportunity. I thank you for allowing me to serve Pitt County, and I look forward to serving Pitt County for many, many years to come.
Thank you. We'll now have opening statements from our Board of Education candidates, beginning with Dacia Lane.
Testing. Good evening. My name is Desha Lane. I am running for District 4 for the Board of Education, and District 4 covers Farmville, all of Farmville schools, Sam D. Bundy, H.B. Suggs, Farmville Middle, Farmville Central, go Jaguars. I am a native of Pitt County and grew up in Farmville, so those are the actual schools that I attended, and also includes Falkland schools. So I am running, actually, I heard somebody mention, was not intending to run, never thought I'd run for office either, but I was asked to run, and the actual students that Judge Hazelton sees in her courtroom are the actual students that I've worked with and the families that I've served over the last 20 plus years of my career. I actually worked for the Pitt County Sheriff's Office and was actually hired under Sheriff Mac Manning and worked there for about 16 and a half years. I worked in the division with school resource officers, implementing and prevention and intervention programs for youth considered at risk, to include bully prevention programs when I work closely with Pitt County schools doing those types of programs. So that has been what my career has consisted of. Again, as a native of Farmville, I am a product of public schools. I'm a single mom, have one daughter, and she is also a product of public schools. She attended J.H. Rose. She graduated from Rose and attended UNC Chapel Hill, where she graduated in 2023, and she's currently pursuing her master's degree at North Carolina Central University. I am also a graduate of East Carolina University, and because of the work that I've done with my students over the years, it prompted me to pursue my Master of Social Work. So I am a recent graduate of North Carolina Central University with my MSW. Some of the items that I'm concerned about in education would include student suspensions, student mental health, as well as parent engagement. So those are some of the topics that I'm interested in learning more about.
Thank you. Next, Worth Forbes.
I'm Worth Forbes. I'm the present school board member for District 6. And I would hope that I'm reelected, but I wanted to give you a little bit about what I stand for and about my family. First, I'm a family man, and I have 2 kids. I'm married to Karen Forbes, and we have 4 grandkids. And we have always supported Pitt County schools. In fact, my grandparents went to Pitt County schools. My parents went to Pitt County schools. And myself and my siblings went to Pitt County schools, my children and my grandkids. So we support public education. And I think that's very important that we do that as school board members and just as citizens, that we support our schools as much as possible. And I've had a lot of experience. I have been a teacher, so I've been in the classroom. I know how to manage a classroom. I've been a principal of several schools, Farmer Central, South Central, Chicad, Pactolas, and I know what it is to run a school and how to get high test scores and meet the needs of every child. And also I've got experience in helping run a school system because I was associate superintendent of Pitt County schools. And that was the position I was in when I retired. I also want to say that we as a school system, we're going in the right direction. We still got a long ways to go, but we're making strides. We will soon support and elect a new superintendent, and of course, Dr. Lassiter is our interim superintendent, and we look forward to him being a part of our school.
Thank you. Erin Kessel.
Good evening. It's an honor to be up here with so many passionate people for our county and our region and our state. And thank you for being here to be informed voters. That is truly a role in itself. My name is Erin Kessel, and I'm running for Board of Education District 6. And so that encompasses Ayden and Grifton, as well as the D.H. Conley area. I'm an educator. I was a teacher in Pitt County schools for 12 years. I finished my career there as a multi-classroom teacher where I mentored other teachers. And I learned that a new passion of mine was to help mentor and teach adults. And so I was offered a position at East Carolina University, and I am now a teaching instructor in the College of Education. And I specifically teach pre-service teachers how to teach kids to read. Whoa, it's a lot. And so now I get the opportunity every single week to take my pre-service teachers into our Pitt County schools and show them the blessings that we have here. I was in 2 of them today. I am so proud and honored of bringing our ECU students into our schools because I know that what we do here is amazing work, and I want to help raise our next generation of teachers for Pitt County schools. My husband is also a high school science teacher at Aiden Grifton, as well as the girls basketball coach. Our poor children are in a household of educators. I've got 2 kids. They go to Aiden Elementary School and Aiden Middle School, where I'm active on the PTA at both schools. We're very active in our community. My husband's running the time clock right now at the football game, and I'm normally in the concession stands. And so we truly believe in our community, and I believe that I have a very current lens of what's going on in our schools and would be a great advocate and voice for my community to represent their needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Benji Force.
Thank you to NPHC for hosting this event tonight. It's certainly a wonderful opportunity to get to know so many more of you. I look forward to hopefully meeting you more in depth and informally after the event this evening. My name is Benji Forrest. I'm currently the District 9 representative on the Pitt County Board of Education. I've served on that board for 16 years, and of course, I'm running for re-election. I've lived in the Blackjack community of Pitt County all of my life. As a matter of fact, I live 1 mile from where I was raised as a child now. I was asked just a few minutes ago, well, if you've lived in Blackjack all your life, have you been anywhere else? And I have. As Eastern Region Ag Ed Coordinator, I have flown to 40 different states, and I've got the opportunity to see education from 6,000 feet or 60,000 feet, or how high those jets fly. I want to tell you why I'm in education. I'm in education, and I'm a believer in education, because in the 9th grade, when I was in the 9th grade, my father died, and I wanted to be a farmer. When he passed away, that I saw my opportunity as being engaged in agriculture as being going away with. I got enrolled in an agricultural education class, an FFA member at Chicago School under Charles Johnson. In the very first day, in the very first class, this is what he said: fellas, I'm not doing the thing I wanted to do most, which was farm. I'm doing the thing I want to do second most, and that's teach others how to become agriculturalists. That has molded my life. Public education is ingrained in me, and I look forward to serving you 4 more years. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jennifer Matthews.
Hi, everyone. I echo everyone's sentiments when we thank you so much for coming, and thank you for hosting us this evening. My name is Jennifer Matthews, and I'm running for Board of Education for District 9. I currently have 3 small children in Wintergreen Elementary, 1 on the primary side, 2 on the intermediate side. I'm also married to a high school social studies teacher, and he's out at Conley. I'm in my children's school weekly. I am either volunteering, I'm finishing up a fundraiser, it ends today, and serving on the PTA board. I've been PTA president, I've been vice president, I'm currently vice president, I've volunteered at book fairs. So I'm active in my children's school to see what it's like every day, day in and day out. But I'm not a K-12 teacher. In my full-time job, I'm a professor at ECU. I work in the Department of Health Education and Promotion and focus most of my time in research as a substance use researcher. What that means is I really focus on trying to prevent substance use, particularly among youth. And by doing that, I work upstream, as we talk in public health, where I address stress and adversity as precursors to substance use engagement by youth. So I do a lot of work with Pitt County schools already, working to build resilience and teaching emotional regulation and amongst teachers as well as amongst students. I've done that in other counties as well, and I've probably educated hundreds of people across Pitt County in those topic areas. So I'm looking to join the Board of Education to provide a different perspective, perhaps look at things a little differently and outside the box. I think we are going in a really great direction, but I also feel like sometimes we need to dig a little bit deeper and not provide Band-Aids, but also really address some of the issues that are actually occurring in our schools, which also happens to be issues that are occurring in our communities. So I look forward to answering your questions tonight, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. This concludes our opening statements for our candidates. Before we move on to ask specific questions for each of the candidates, I'd like to remind our audience that you have an opportunity to submit questions. We have several members here this evening with cards in which you may write and submit your questions. Please note, due to time constraints and other factors this evening, your question may or may not be asked, but again, you are encouraged to submit questions. We'll now move to our U.S. House Representative candidate, George Cuomo, for questioning. Your first question: what measures will you support? What measures will you take to support climate change?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Yes.
Support climate change?
Yes. What measures will you take to support climate change?
So I guess I'll just start off by saying I may or may not be on the same ideological path as the person who may have thought of that question of supporting climate change. However, if you do want to talk about being a good steward of the environment, which is something that even biblically we are charged to do, then I would say that certainly taking measures that take into account less pollution, less emissions, and responsible use of our resources as a society, then yes, maybe our paths can merge somewhere down the line. I think that some of the conversation that happens in this particular field, unfortunately, at least from my point of view, a lot of times is a lot more talk with the premise that if only we have more tax dollars, we could solve more. But realistically, I believe that is a lot more hot air than actual factual work that needs to be done.
Thank you. Your next question, again to you, Mr. Cuomo.
Excuse me.
Sure. What are your top 3 legislative priorities if elected?
Certainly. So I think one thing we could really do is focus on low-hanging fruits, okay? When I talked about marijuana reform, I mean, that is really a low-hanging fruit. All we literally got to do is just push it over the line. Statistically, it's shown out there that it's got 70% support among the voting population, even among those I would say they're conservatives, they're somewhere around 50% support for that. That in and right there would be something I would work towards, because I believe in the principle that if you're not hurting anyone, that there's no reason you should be getting arrested for it. If you're not hurting anyone or committing fraud or stealing, anything of that nature, I don't see why we should be devoting resources towards incarcerating people. I'm not a fan of incarceration therapy. The second thing I would like to work towards is basically working on getting to 3 points in within 1 minute. I'm sorry about that one.
Thank you. And last question for now, Ms. Cuomo. Thank you for your patience. What steps will you take to support small businesses and encourage job creation?
So I believe that a lot of the impediments to small business and creation is actually from government. I believe that a lot of it comes in the form of licensing requirements. I think there's a lot of different areas that we could certainly remove or reduce certain requirements. And there's a lot of stories out there. If any of you ever follow the Institute for Justice or Reason.com, they're basically littered with small-time people trying to run a taco truck, trying to do a hair braiding business, anything of the nature like that. And a lot of it does come down to people find it most difficult just to get past your local governance or your local bodies of zoning, if you will, just to simply get started in a entrepreneurship. And I think that's one of the most important things we can certainly work towards.
Great, thank you. Thank you. All right, next our questions will be directed towards the NC Auditor candidate, Bob Drock. Let's begin with your response to ensure the transparency of financial affairs of the state. How will you ensure the transparency of financial affairs of the state?
Yeah, so the state auditor, it's not like an IRS auditor, right? The IRS auditor goes after you. The state auditor works for you and looks at the government and tries to find, first of all, make sure that the financial statements accurately represent the financial condition of the government agency, and then also to look for instances of waste, fraud, and abuse. And the key resource there is a hotline that the Office of State Auditor maintains for citizens and government workers to report waste, fraud, and abuse. 60% of fraud in government cannot be discovered with an audit. It requires someone to see something and say something. So I would focus on the hotline to report waste, fraud, and abuse, and I would make sure that everyone's aware of the whistleblower laws in the state of North Carolina that protects people when they identify those things.
And what changes would you make to address that misuse of monies in the state?
Well, I'll address more of this in my closing statement, but we need to improve the Office of the State Auditor. There's some real problems there right now. Many of you may be familiar with the scandal in the State Auditor's Office. The former auditor was forced to resign because of an ethical issue. The current auditor is a political appointee. And if any of you have worked in an organization where there's been corruption at the top, that is a nasty work environment. It's very difficult to maintain morale and to have the professionals in that organization be productive. So that's why I'm running as a qualified, independent person who's got management experience, who can go in and restore the integrity of the state of the auditor's office and make sure that it functions at a high level to protect the citizens of North Carolina.
Thank you. Next set of questions for our House of Representatives and Senate. Okay, we'll begin with Mr. Reeder. What are your plans for a woman's right to choose?
So as a physician, one of the two physicians in the General Assembly, I'm aware of this complex and passionate issue. And I believe that we came up with a good compromise bill that was passed last year. In North Carolina, before Roe v. Wade was overturned, there was a time limit on restrictions on abortion. We passed restrictions at 12 weeks. We have exceptions for rape, for incest, for the life of the mother. We said that you can't have an elective abortion for the gender of the child, that you can't have an abortion if the patient has Down syndrome. We have all the medical exceptions that we need as physicians to take care of women who have complications. Our policy that we passed puts us in line with most of the Western world. We have the same policy in North Carolina they have in France, in Germany, in Italy. It's more restrictive than Poland and Ireland. I think that this is where a majority of North Carolinians are, is that they believe that there should be some restrictions.
Thank you. Claire Kempton.
My husband and I compromise on a lot of things. One thing I will not compromise on is my freedom to make decisions about my own damn body. Because whether and when to start a family is one of the most consequential decisions a person can make in their life. I have 3 children, and I have been pregnant 5 times because pregnancy is unpredictable. Someone you love may struggle with a pregnancy one day. Someone you love may need an abortion. We need to care for our women, not place restrictions on what they can and cannot do with their body. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura Singh Brown.
What I plan to do is pray that you send me back to Raleigh and we break the supermajority so that this can come up again, so that we can decide and make the vote to say what we do with our bodies are our business. The doctor office is not big enough for politicians to be sitting there on another stool or another chair when that decision is to be made between you, the doctor, and your spouse or significant other. So I do not want anyone telling me what to do with my body. I do not want anyone telling my granddaughters what to do with their bodies. It's no discussion, point blank. It's no, we give you, you don't give us anything. It should not be that type of decision that have to be made. The bottom line, stay out of my business and stay where you need to be and handle the business that need to be handled. That's it.
Thank you. Same question, Alexander Pascal. What are your plans for a woman's right to choose?
You don't need to vote straight Democrat to get forward movement on this issue. While I sympathize with a lot of the rationale behind the bill that the House and the Senate Republicans passed last year, I sympathize with that rationale. I just don't think that that's the role of government. I think where I stand on the issue, the Democrat Party line on this issue used to be safe but rare. There was an acknowledgement that every time that there was an abortion, it was a tragedy. It's a tragedy whether it was the loss of life or the tragedy for the health of the mother. This is a very serious, grave issue. It's nothing to celebrate in any way, but I think we have to provide safe access to abortion. Where I believe in supply and demand, where there is a demand, there will always be a supply. I don't think that we want to return back to the pre-Roe days of back alley abortions that just put everyone in danger. So on this issue, I sympathize certainly with some of the social conservatives and their views on that. I'm a lawyer. I don't want doctors telling me how to practice law, and I don't want to tell doctors how to practice medicine.
Thank you. Candy Smith.
Thank you so much. I think when I'm hearing some things, when we say most people wanted there to be a change, it's not about most people. If we had a room full of women, if we had women at that table making these decisions, that's a different thing. But when I serve in the General Assembly, I serve with majority of white men who sit across and now are making laws to try to tell me what to do with my body. That is not okay for me or any other woman. So we're not trying to roll back the times, because sometimes that could be a matter of life or death for us. But because of your decision and what you think is best is not okay. So for us to visit it in the first place, for us to have the courts to be stacked so we can go back because it's a political issue, what we do with our body as women is not political, and it should never be political. So I vote that we make sure that we overturn that decision. And I don't care what people think about a compromise. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question, Candy Smith, we'll begin with you. Will you work to fully fund our public education department before funding private school vouchers?
Yes. But I'm saying it's simple as that, yes. Because we can play games, and that's what we're doing. We're playing games. If we had fully funded Leandro or started paying like we should, we wouldn't have this as an issue. But when you say, well, we're not taking it from the schools, we're taking it from another pot. No, we're not taking care of our public schools, and that's what we are mandated to do as a state. So to have sorry excuses, they can't tell us what to do with our money because we lost in a lawsuit, that's for the birds. We ain't got time for that. Our children are our future. That's our most precious commodity. And anybody who wants to play around with that, that is an issue. So we should fully fund our public schools. And if we did it, we wouldn't have such a battle with our private schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexander Pascal.
With all due respect to Senator Smith, I feel the passion for that. It'd be nice if she would show up to vote on it. She missed the vote on the school voucher thing last year. In fact, in the long session, she was the third most absent senator in the North Carolina State Senate. She missed over 30% of the votes. So I hear your passion, and I tend to agree with you, but you've got to elect someone who's going to show up and do the work. We can pound the table and try to rile everybody up and get our votes, but if you got to elect someone who's going to go do the thing they promised you to do. So I certainly sympathize with that. I agree. I don't think while I don't necessarily oppose school vouchers in certain instances, I don't think that you should be deprived of a private school education just because you're poor. I certainly hear the criticisms that we shouldn't be subsidizing C-suite executives' kids' private school education with taxpayer dollars. I don't think that was the best use of the funds, but we should elect someone up there who's going to say that.
Thank you. Glorstein Brown, same question. Will you work to fully fund our public education department before funding private school vouchers?
Absolutely, yes. Candace stole my thunder. But yes, I would definitely support because that is part of our job. And me as a freshman learning that the state is our responsibility to take care of our public schools. And before I became in this arena, I was just trying to figure out what I was puzzled about all these years out here listening to the school system constantly begging and needing money, teachers needing raises, bus drivers, cafeteria workers, everybody. But all of a sudden, this big pot of money shows up and they're talking about funding private schools. And it makes no sense. And then you want to put down our private schools and say they're not doing their job, the things are not being taken care of. Well, how can they when we cannot even get the funding that we properly need to take care of our students within the school system to give them the resources that the teachers need? They shouldn't have to go out here getting 2 and 3 jobs just to take care of our children. So absolutely, I will take care of funding our public schools.
Thank you. Clara Kempner.
We need to fully fund our schools. If we were fully funding our schools the way the Leandro case ruled, Pitt County schools would have an additional $68 million every year. I believe our budget is somewhere around $250 million. And I'm not great at math, but that's about a quarter additional money toward our budget. The North Carolina Constitution says that all children in North Carolina deserve access to a quality, equitable education that is adequately funded. By expanding this school voucher program, we are giving $463 million public tax dollars to private schools. We need to make our schools a place where all children are free to learn, to have all the potential they can have. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Reeder.
So I think that we can do both. We can fund public schools, and those are important, but we can also allow poor children who can't afford to go to a private school that opportunity as well. We shouldn't put our children who in the public schools that aren't working for them. When we pass the opportunity scholarships, that's exactly what it is. It's an opportunity for scholarships. 72,000 children across North Carolina applied for that. Now, we talk about fully funding public schools. In our budget, about $32 billion is what the state budget is. 12 billion of that goes to K through 12. So nearly 40% of the total budget goes to K-12. In the last budget that we passed, we had $709 million for school construction, which is supposed to be a local issue. We had raises for school teachers. We had additional raises for school bus drivers, for principals. We raised the starting salary. We did a lot for public schools. We need to continue to do more. But it isn't a question of one or the other. We need to do both.
Thank you. Our next question for our NC House and Senate candidates, and we'll change the order. You can have a seat, Mr. Reeder, and we'll start with you, Glorstein Brown, if you don't mind. What will you do to protect LGBTQ North Carolinians? Yes.
I will do whatever I can because I think your decision, your choices, that's on you. And I do not have a problem. I was taught, and I have to, with my heart and believe, you're all human beings. But whatever you do outside of that, that is your decision. And we are here to protect everybody and to make sure everybody have a good quality of life. That is what I'm here for. Not to judge, not to sit back and talk about this person or that person, but I'm here to serve, to make sure that everybody gets a good quality of life. And I will do what is legal and what is right.
Thank you. And we'll move next to Alexander Pascal.
With all due respect, I think that this question is going to invite a lot of political pandering from a lot of folks up here. I'm kind of pretty libertarian on the issue of the LGBTQ. What you want to do in the privacy of your own bedroom is 100% absolutely your business. But what additional, we have laws, you can't assault people, you can't harass people, you can't stalk people. We have generally applicable laws. I'm sure there's going to be somebody that goes to General Assembly and tries to file a bill to add some extra special layer of protection. But in all candor, I think that's just political pandering. I don't think that there is anything needed on that front. We're talking about maybe strengthening some employment law. I certainly don't think you should ever be denied a job based on your sexual orientation. I believe that's already the state of the law. If there's some employment lawyers that want to tell me different and they want to, there's another statute they see that needs to be mixed into, I'm happy to entertain that. But we have generally applicable laws that protect everyone from harm.
Thank you. Candy Smith.
Thank you so much. The minute we decide to exclude certain people based on things that we don't like, that same thing will be done to us. And I am not willing to allow someone to select a certain group of people and then say, well, we don't want them to do this or have that right, because when they do that, they'll be coming after me next. We already got critical race theory. We already got, you're trying to take all of the books out of the schools that deal with Black history. So when they come after one, they come after the other. So I think it's important that we make sure that our laws, even though we say we have them, that we enforce the laws when we are attacking people that we should not attack, and stop making excuses of why things are happening. So we have to protect all North Carolinians. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Tim Reeder.
And I missed the question we were talking about the microphone. Could you just repeat it for me? I'm sorry.
Sure, no problem.
I get the gist of it, but
yes, sir. What will you do to protect LGBTQ North Carolinians?
I think that we need to allow people to be who they are in their authentic self. I think that right now you can't discriminate based on that. It's certainly in my medical practice, that's not a consideration for me. I take care of everybody as they are and as they present to me. And so I think that we shouldn't single out a population just because they're different from us.
Thank you. Claire Kempner.
I am the daughter of a man who lived in his whole life in the closet. I've never talked about it publicly before. I am an ally, and I will support the LGBTQ community. People I have met in the LGBTQ community are some of the kindest, most compassionate people I have met, because they have faced so much discrimination and hate from people. We need to let people be who they are. It is hard to be different, and we need to support them. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next, we will have questions for our county commissioners. Beginning with Mac Manning. What are your thoughts on the recruitment of new companies and requiring a county median salary to encourage ECU grads to remain in Pitt County? Again, what are your thoughts on the recruitment of new companies and requiring a county median salary to encourage ECU grads to remain in Pitt County.
Okay, well, I'm all for economic development as long as we do so in a coordinated fashion. There are professionals here in the county that are engaged in bringing in businesses and working toward good employment opportunities for our citizens. And I certainly support that to the degree that it doesn't have negative consequences on the neighborhood that business or industry is in. We had a example of that several years ago where the community, where the industry was going to locate, felt like it was going to be a detrimental to their quality of life. But other than that, as far as salary goes, I don't think that's within the purview of the county commission to tell a private employer what kind of salary they're going to have. I think that's at the state level.
Thank you. Bob Edwards, same question. I'll repeat it. What are your thoughts on the recruitment of new companies and requiring a county median salary to encourage ECU grads to remain in Pitt County?
I think economic development that's sustainable and equitable is a crucial thing for the Pitt County Commission to work on. And they do that already. One of the advantages of that is as businesses like that come in, it increases the tax base in the county and produces revenue that enables the county commission to pursue various priorities. On the other hand, if a business comes in and just hypothetically say it pays minimum wage, people working full-time at a job like that are still eligible for pretty much every form of social service available. And jobs at that scale, a single parent with a kid can't live on that, and they end up becoming in many ways dependent upon other resources in the county that are paid for by the county. So it's counterproductive to have businesses come in and pay at that level. So I think that the county needs to do what it can to, maybe we can't require it, but we should sure as heck encourage it and let it be known that we expect that they pay a livable wage.
Thank you. Bob Edwards, we'll begin with you for this next question. What are your plans for increasing access to technology and internet resources in underserved neighborhoods in the county?
I think in short answer is we need to continue the efforts the county has made to extend broadband high-speed internet to the remaining parts of the county that don't already have it. I believe that there are federal funds available through recent national legislation that provides the capacity to do that. We need to pursue those, and we need to not tell ourselves that, well, 92% of the county has broadband. That's good enough. No, like rural electrification a long, long time ago, we need to get broadband to every corner and cranny and nook of our county.
Thank you. Mac Manning.
Well, I support it, and I've got to report that my daughter is the benefactor of some of the programs. She and her husband live out in the county, some distance east of Aden, and she recently got landline or fiber optic cable or Wi-Fi internet cable run by her house where she could get off of a satellite that was inefficient. And she's so happy because she actually she works in computers, does computer work at her job, and she also has a part-time business that is computer-based. So she is delighted that she now has reliable internet at her home, and I'm happy for her. Thank you.
Thank you. McMahon, we'll stay with you for this next question. What is your response to a projected tax increase for county residents?
I didn't know there was one. We just recently went through reevaluation, And anybody that owns real estate knows that their property values went up. So the county lowered the tax rate. They didn't go all the way to net zero or zero revenue neutral, but they kept just enough to what they thought they needed to expand the budget necessary for the coming year. So that's caused some conversation when I'm out politicking and talking in the neighborhoods and stuff. People were concerned. But what I have found out in talking with people is, because I talked to a gentleman that was selling his house, he actually sold his house for more than the county had evaluated the property at. So that tells me that they were conservative in the values that they assigned to people's property.
Thank you. Bob Edwards, same question.
As Max said, the property valuations were redone as normal, I think, every 5 years. Property values were assessed notably higher than they had been in the past. And I think we're all pretty aware that property prices nationwide have gone up quite a bit. The county adjusted the rate down to some sort of modest increase in overall taxation. Honestly, this is a two-edged sword. We pay lower rate and produce more revenue for the county. And I think the question is holding the county accountable to what we do with that extra revenue. And as Mac mentioned, there's a process that people can use to appeal their valuation and perhaps get their valuation and their new tax bill reduced. My hunch is that an awful lot of people may know that exists, but they've got no real clear idea of how to access it. As a county, we should aggressively, proactively educate the community on that option and make it accessible and widely known so people can appeal their rates and perhaps get them down.
Thank you. Next question for our county commissioner candidates. Bob, we'll start with you since you last had the microphone. Do you support a raise for the Pitt County Sheriff?
The sheriff's job is really hard and difficult and challenging. I knew that in a more intellectual way a while back, but after I did a tour of the detention facility with the sheriff for 2 or 3 hours and heard about all the moving parts in her job, I got a new appreciation of the complexity of that job. The sheriff, early back in 2019, appealed to the county to raise the salary band in the HR process for the sheriff's position. And that was approved, and she got a significant raise. Since then, she's had cost of living increases like every other county employee. I think she's done a fabulous job. I support her and the things that she's done. I think one way to approach a raise would be to initiate the process for human resources in the county to reassess the job of sheriff and the recommended salary band and see if that goes up. If it goes up, I would fully support a raise. If it doesn't go up, I'd seriously consider one.
Thank you. Mac Manning.
Well, having served as sheriff for 12 years, I have probably am the one person in this room that can understand the requirements of the job. And I think Sheriff Dance has done a very good job and done some innovative things, especially at the jail, to try to reduce recidivism. Started some programs, GED, drug rehabilitation, and things like that. She hit the ground running, and I think she's been on the job now. This is maybe her about 6th year now in her term. and she's had one significant raise, and that was 5 years ago, I would be in favor, because the truth of the matter is, what that job entails, you don't have enough money to pay somebody to really do what she does, and I commend her for her work.
Thank you. All right. We'll move along to questions for our NC Court of Appeals candidate, Carolyn Thompson. Explain the role of the Court of Appeals.
All in 1 minute, okay? So we preside in panels of 3. There are 15 judges on the Court of Appeals, but we sit in panels of 3 to decide when cases come before us. And I always tell people in campaigning, the most powerful words you can say when the lower court, district court, superior court, magistrate court gets it wrong in your opinion, or they feel like you just not had a fair day in court, those 2 words are "I appeal." And at that point, it comes up to the Court of Appeals. We look at the record, which is again why experience matters, because I've been a trial attorney and a trial judge creating the record, the very record that I look at. I look at the record first of what happened in the lower court, and then I look at the briefs from the attorneys to see how they are arguing what happened. So the Court of Appeals, I see you over there. The Court of Appeals, we are the workhorse of the appellate system. We hear like 90% of all the appeals that come from the lower court, and that's just a smidget of what we do.
Thank you. And please share with us your judicial philosophy.
Thank you for the question. I guess I'm considered what they call a Jeffersonian. I believe that the Constitution is in fact a living, breathing document to impact us as we grow as a people and as a nation. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to vote because I'm a woman and I'm an African American. It has to be where the people and their rights are protected regardless of zip code. So that means that I am upholding the law and the Constitution equally, regardless of who comes before me. That's a piece of my judicial philosophy.
Thank you. And last question. What is the greatest challenge facing the Court of Appeals?
Transparency is the greatest challenge that we're experiencing right now. I don't know if you all have had an opportunity to review the RFK ruling, the UNCID ruling, but we are in discussions about how when the orders say it's unanimous, know that it's really not unanimous. Again, we sit in panels of 3. There are 3 judges making these very serious decisions about the entire state when these rulings come across. The other thing that I would say is like this question: what is it that the Court of Appeals does? Because a lot of people don't know. We assume that court is always about criminal, but I review cases from domestic violence, which is my background and my training. I review cases involving custody and child support. Because I was a district court judge for so long and a superior court judge, it is my honor to continue to review the underlying court's decisions, and often I uphold them, but I'm also prepared to write a dissent when I don't agree with the interpretation of the law with the 2 people presiding on the other side of the panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next set of questions will be directed to our candidates for Superior Court Judge and District Court Judge, beginning with Jeffrey Foster. It is often said justice is blind. What do you use in order to make decisions that are fair and equitable and without bias?
Every time someone appears before me, I have to remember that this is their only case. What I've done in the past that day, what I did 10 minutes ago, none of that matters because I have someone new and their rights are their rights, and it's important to treat everyone individually and with respect. That's the goal that I have every day I'm in court. I try to treat everyone that comes before me respectfully, take their issues very seriously, and I don't care what color they are or what their background is or where they're from. They are before me seeking justice, and it's my job to make sure that they get that without any kind of bias or delay.
Thank you. Wendy Hazelton, same question.
Thank you. As an assistant public defender, my legal philosophy was I would represent my clients by any legal and ethical means necessary. As a district court judge, it is my philosophy to make sure that everyone has equal access. That means making sure everyone has the opportunity to be heard, They have their opportunity to say what it is that they need to say, and for me to give them my full attention to make sure that I am listening to their concerns. And I will assess their case as the law requires me to do. I don't look at people and say, are you a Republican? Are you a Democrat? That does not matter to me. I treat everyone the same. I do not give special treatment to friends and family. And if I feel that I cannot be fair, I will remove myself from the case.
Thank you. Wendy Hazelton, we'll remain with you for this next question. How can we improve the efficiency of our district and superior court? How can we improve the efficiency of our district and superior court?
One way I think we could improve our efficiency is if we were able to have more judges. You would be amazed at the amount of cases that come before us, and having to determine which cases we are going to set is a big, big deal. Sometimes cases sit on the calendar for a long time because we don't have the time to get to them. So if we could have more positions for district court judges, I'm assuming the same thing would be superior court judges, that will allow us to move cases at a faster pace.
Thank you. Jeffrey Foster, same question.
Yeah, court is a unique animal. I tell people all the time that our system of justice is the worst system in the world except for all the others. And the reason for that is it just looks inefficient. We have district attorneys, we have private attorneys, we have clerks, we have judges, we have police officers and deputy sheriffs, all who have to come together at the right time and in the right order so that a case can be resolved. And it's a hard juggle. I think our particular courthouse does a really good job of getting everyone in the proper place and all the pieces in the right order. And I'm not sure how that can be improved on. Certainly more personnel always is helpful, but I think the people that are there work hard to maximize what we have, and I think they serve the people of Pitt County well.
Thank you. I'm sorry, we'll stay with you again.
The exercise.
Thank you. Recently, there have been signs that have appeared in the county addressing concern about Pitt County Family Court. What is your assessment of family court in Pitt County?
All right, so this is a softball question for me because I have nothing to do with family court. So rather than take a minute to tell you that, I'm going to hand the mic to the judge in here that does do family court.
Thank you.
So family court is a very interesting area of law. And when you are dealing with children, you're dealing with families, it can be very antagonistic and your heartstrings are involved. And sometimes people are going to leave the court system feeling like they were not heard because they did not get the result that they needed. But as a district court judge that serves in that court on a daily basis, I am here to tell you that the judges that do serve with their heart. We do what we think is best for these children. And that may not be what the parent wants, but it is what's best for the children. And so if we ask someone to go out and get an assessment, there is a reason that we do that. So you have to understand, in the court system, someone is going to leave unhappy. Everyone cannot be a winner. And so I've seen those signs, but I can assure you that the judges listen and they care.
Thank you. Our next set of questions will be directed to our candidates for Pitt County Board of Education, beginning with Desha Lane. Please share your plan to enhance safety overall in schools. Again, please share your plan to enhance safety overall in schools.
Okay. As someone, again, I mentioned earlier that I did work closely, I work with the Pitt County Sheriff's Office, so I work closely with school resource officers. So I'm all for intervention and prevention programs. I understand school resource officers are there, they're there for a purpose, but we like for them to be the last resort. But if we're addressing the needs of our students, and just kind of, again, mental health is something that I'm concerned about, but addressing the needs of our students, making sure that they're safe, and just keeping our SROs in place as they need to be. I think that the SROs are able to address those issues.
Thank you. Worth Forbes, same question.
Yes, I think Pitt County Schools, we have made an effort to make our schools as safe as possible. And I can tell you that we will never be able to make those schools 100% safe. But we got to strive every day to continue to make sure that we're putting steps in place that help the safety of our schools. We've got scanners that we have purchased over the last few years that are at the high schools. They can be at any school at any time when there's a issue that comes up. Also, it is also a county effort, working with our sheriff department, working with our local police departments. It takes them. You know, it's very helpful if something is boiling within our schools, and usually we get something that will come in on Monday after the weekend, and then my time.
All right, so school safety. As a parent, it's usually our #1 priority when we send our kids off for 8 hours and trust the schools to keep them safe. Aiden Elementary, I taught there when there was no fence in the front of the school, and now there's a fence, and people say, oh my gosh, it looks like a jail. And I say, oh my gosh, that sidewalk, which is public access, was 10 feet from our kindergarten classrooms. We have more safety. And so it's just being aware of our schools, the location, the geography, making sure that we are really ensuring students are safe within the area and doing things we need to build around the school for that. Promoting our SRO officers who are there every single day from the very first car rider to the very last one. They're the backbone for our school safety. They have clear communication with our admin every day. When we hear something in the schools that could possibly be a concern, the SRO officers are there. So ensuring that they are continuing to be in our schools is extremely important.
When I first arrived on Pitt County Board of Education, we had very few SROs. Worth Forbes and I helped to champion making sure that there was an SRO in every school. That's #1. They've got to be visible, and they've got to be able to communicate with and have relationships and caring relationships with our students. #2, being able to go into a school is one way in, one way out, and you have a foyer that it can protect them with. And the only way that visitors can come in is to be able to beep in and have that situation to take care of. That's #2. #3, you got to make sure that we have, and we do have, metal detectors. And we do that not on an everyday basis, but we do it from time to time to keep the students honest when they're bringing in things. So metal detectors is very important. Safety also is very important when it comes to wanting to put nurses in every school. We want to do that because that is important as well. There's another issue. Maybe I can get back at it at the next question.
Thank you. Jennifer Matthews.
As a parent, school safety, when I send my kids to school, is really, really forefront in my mind. So school resource officers are definitely necessary and bring a lot of relief to me as a parent, knowing that they're there, and if something were, to to happen. But I also feel like if you look at the history of safety issues in schools, the one underlying thing that's common in almost every situation is the person struggled with a mental health issue. They were in the school or previously in the school. We need to do more to start addressing, again, those underlying issues that are actually causing and raising issues for safety within the schools. Also using our school resource officers to show that you can forge positive relationships with law enforcement and that they aren't terrible individuals that are just out to get you is also a great way of building that community within the school and helping those students recognize that they're there for their protection. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer, we'll stay with you for this question.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I meant to stand up.
Yes. All right, reversing the order. What specific steps will you take to ensure that schools in marginalized communities receive equitable funding and resources compared to schools in more affluent areas?
This is actually a passion of mine. I am currently working with some school counselors, school social workers, and teachers to try to bring resources to the families in those regions that do not have the same amount of resources that we have, say, in our city schools. Our county schools do not receive a lot of the same resources that are available just by proximity. So it is our job to bring it to them. I've done this with a lot of my workshops in teaching, about ACEs and adverse childhood experiences, teaching emotional regulation. I've gone to Bethel, I've gone to Aden, I've gone to Farmville. So let's start working with communities and also building the infrastructure in those communities so they have it already, and you're building the resources in those communities without actually having somebody from Greenville coming up, but it's somebody in that community that can continue to do those resources. So I'm a firm believer that we have to bring it to them, and there are lots of out-of-the-box ways that we can do that, and I've done that throughout my work in my time at ECU.
Thank you. Same question.
Yes.
For us.
A lot of people don't know this, but schools are funded by three main buckets. One is your local money. We look to our county commissioners for that. Two is our state money. We look to Tim Reeder for that. Done a great job. And third are your federal funds. Federal funds are unique in that you have to be able to spend them in an equitable way. And they're spread out in a capacity where the greatest need gets the greatest amount of resources. Dr. Linker's done a tremendous job with that. When we put Dr. Laster in charge, he will make sure that we continue to see to it that those resources are used in an equitable manner so that those schools needing those things at a greater capacity will continue to receive them. Thank you.
Thank you. Erin Kessel.
So I think it has to do with representation. District 6 is unique because it has two high schools in it. It has D.H. Conley and it has Aden Grifton. And they're extremely diverse demographics. And I think that there needs to be a voice all the way from the Creek in Grifton all the way to 43 for Conley. And it's not always as equitable. We do see where ESSER funds had gone to schools such as Grifton, which was highly needed. They got new furniture, things like that is wonderful. But what we also need is we need a community support. And so sometimes our under-marginalized schools aren't feeling supported at a community level. And so we need to bring value to those schools and bring the community back together in those schools so that, yes, the funding can be there, but then the kids and the parents and the community also feel valued and heard and respected across the entire county.
Thank you. The question remains, what specific steps will you take to ensure that schools in marginalized communities receive equitable funding and resources compared to schools in more affluent areas or Forbes?
You know, what I look at is how are these different schools achieving? Because I look at achievement first. Every school in our system needs to be achieving. It does not matter whether they are from an affluent area or whether they are a low socioeconomic status. we need to be able to put programs in place at a school, for example, with low socioeconomic students. We may have to put more funds in that school to help that school be successful. You know, it's there, and the way our PTOs work, about some schools have very successful PTOs and they're able to raise a lot of funds, but then some other schools don't have a PTA or PTO, and they are not able to get those funds. Our school system needs to look at each individual school to make sure that the kids are the ones that are benefiting and being benefited by programs that help them succeed.
Thank you. Dasha Lane.
Just kind of to echo some of the things that have already been said, but I think it's just necessary to actually just kind of look and see, just look at your schools and see what the needs are in our schools, and just to make sure that each child is able to get a sound, basic, equitable education. So their zip code should not matter, what test scores, their test scores. So I don't think it, necessarily based on how a child is achieving, what the school is achieving, because you have students from different areas who have different issues, different traumas, and different things that they're dealing with on a daily basis. So those are probably the students who will need the most funding. And so as a board, we have to work together collectively, collaboratively, to make sure that all students are receiving everything that they need so that they can, just receive a good basic education, and not just some students and depending on their zip codes.
Thank you. Our next question, again, changing the order, we'll begin with you, Aaron Kessel. How will you use your role on the school board to fight for better mental health services for our students?
So I think it comes down to our support staff. We don't have enough right now in our school systems. We are sharing social workers, and we are sharing psychologists, and we are sharing nurses with way too high of a ratio. We shouldn't have 4 nurses per school. We shouldn't have to have a counselor back and forth between 2 schools. We need to have 1 in each school so that when students have any concerns, there's an outlet and safety that they can go to immediately, and then we can have a team to support them. And so I truly believe that, I love my teachers, but I love my support staff, and they are the roots that hold our school together. And so making sure that we are providing for them and giving enough positions for them in the schools will help our students as well. Thank you.
Next, Jennifer Matthews, same question.
So I think that we actually need to approach this a little differently. Our kids are coming from homes that are, some are unstable, some have very fortunate to have very stable homes, but there's other things going on, and they're showing up in our classrooms. And as a rule of thought, we can do, and teachers can do what they can in the classroom, but once they leave the classroom, they can become dysregulated. And so we actually need to approach it as a school-wide environmental change, where we are actually protecting these kids, no matter where they go within that school. There is a lens brought that they are, that we can do something and we can impact them and we can build their resilience and teach them emotional regulation so that they can grow up to be adults that can emotionally regulate in a healthy way. And so I feel like it is definitely a need to have more support staff and counselors and social workers, but it really does require the entire school to buy into that thought and that approach to really see the benefits of what that can do for mental health.
Same question. We'll hear from Dasha Lane. And the question remains, how will you use your role on the school board to fight for better mental health services for our students?
As I stated, I have my MSW. So, and mental health is something that is near and dear. Just kind of over the last 2 years, I've served as an alternative to suspension site, which is why suspensions are so near and dear. But I've just noticed some of the mental health concerns in those students that are constantly being suspended. And so that is one of the reasons why it is something that I'm concerned, just something that is at the forefront for me, because these students that are being suspended are students who are dealing with mental health issues. And you can suspend the student, but you can't suspend anxiety, you can't suspend depression, so I think they need to keep those students in the school, hire additional staff. I understand that funding is needed for all of that. We need additional teachers, but definitely social workers, counselors, definitely necessary to be able to support those students as well as their families, as well as the teachers and the administrators, because everybody is having a hard time right now.
Thank you. Worth Forbes and then Benji Force.
I agree with everything that's been said. We at Pitt County Schools, we need more support staff. We need more social workers. We need more counselors. We need to make sure that the counselors that we have at the schools, that they are really counseling those kids and they don't get hung up in paperwork. They need to be counseling those students. One thing that I realize is I'm a pastor at Freedom Baptist Church in Aiken. I've been there 13 years as the pastor. And I've had to bury a young person who was bullied and they took their own life. It's time that we stop being reactive and we be proactive. Sure, we've got to have money. We need nurses. We need all of this, but we also need to make sure that every staff member at that school campus is trained to identify and see certain things that pop up in a kid that, hey, this kid needs help, and not ignore it and send it to the proper source.
Thank you. Benji Force.
COVID exposed a lot of things in public schools, but one thing it certainly did expose was the issue of the mental challenges that has been brought about because of it. And one of the things that I have tried to champion, Worth, and I know you have too, is because of those new challenges, one of the things that we really have tried to champion is to make sure that we have a nurse in every school. And we have to have those social workers and we have to have those guidance counselors that are working as well. But until you put your money where your problems are, you always put your budget where your priorities are. We've asked this current board to make sure that we have funds that we can put to nurses and those social workers that will help these kids overcome those issues that would have been dealt with because of COVID.
Thank you. At this time, we'll conclude our questions for the candidates. I'll ask if you have any questions that you'd like to submit. You still are free to do so. And perhaps you can discuss with these candidates one-on-one at the conclusion of our event, and maybe they'll respond to those questions for you. We'll now move into our closing statements. Again, candidates will be provided 1 minute, 30 seconds for your closing statements. And we'll begin in the order in which we started this evening with our U.S. House of Representatives candidate, George Cormos.
Thank you so much. Okay, so as we're drawing down here, I know everyone's getting tired. If you remember anything about tonight, I want you to remember this statement: taxation is theft. A bunch of people over here were talking about public tax dollars and how you could potentially maybe decrease your tax assessor's evaluation. Wrong ideological line, okay? I'm not gonna go any further into the analysis, but give it a look. Give me a look up and check it out. In closing, I just want to say this, that the reason I'm trying to get into this game is because it's for my kids, okay? It's for my kids. What happened during the pandemic, where you had politicians doing photo ops with all the kids with their masks on in the background, I found that to be incredibly deplorable, okay? Furthermore, the fact that in about 12 years over here, my kid's gonna turn 18, he's gonna look at me and be like, hey, Dad, how'd you let that debt get away? How am I supposed to pay that? That's a problem for me. It's not just a matter of politics. It's a matter of, I've got kids coming up behind me and I got to have some answers for them. That's why I'm over here. That's why I'm pushing this particular line, this ideology. And I encourage all of you to take a look at it, see if I'm worth your vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Bob Drock. I'm a certified management accountant, and I'm running for state auditor. Imagine that, an accountant for auditor. I'm also independent. I'm unbiased toward Republicans. I'm unbiased toward Democrats. I'll be fair to both, or I'll be tough on both. You understand these reasons for voting for Bob Drock for state auditor. But a few of you out there may be saying, I'm worried about voting for an independent. Two things. There's a poll by Meredith University. 65% of people in North Carolina said we need third-party candidates because the major party candidates do not fully address our needs. Sometimes we don't like either of them. It's the lesser of two evils. And that may be the case in the auditor race as well. Also, 40% of North Carolina voters register unaffiliated or third party. That's the largest voting bloc in North Carolina. If everybody votes their convictions, we all win. There are even Democrats and Republicans who don't vote party line, they vote for the best available candidate. So everyone, please look at the auditor race and vote for Bob Drock for North Carolina State Auditor. Thank you.
Thank you. NC House of Representatives, Tim Reed.
Okay. So my name is Tim Reeder. I'm running for re-election to the North Carolina House of Representatives in District 9. We've had some great conversations tonight. The one thing that we never talked about that is the most important thing on all of your minds is the economy. How do you pay for your groceries and pay for your bills? We know that the work that we've done in the General Assembly over the last several years, including this year, has worked to help stimulate and grow the economy in North Carolina. We passed tax cuts of 40% this year, returning $1.2 billion to you as taxpayers across the state. I am confident that you know better how to spend your money than having the government spend it. That is number one. The policies that we have put in place to grow the economy has made North Carolina the best place to do business 2 years in a row, according to outside agencies. We know that if you can't pay for your bills, if you can't get groceries, if you can't buy a house, those things are not going to make you sustainable and have a great life. So working on the economy, that has been number one priority. And we have done, and I have done and advocated for those things. We have seen some incredible job announcements here in Pitt County that has helped us as evidence of that. The other thing that I've done has been an advocate for Pitt County. We have got more resources back to Pitt County than we ever have before. $500,000 for ECU and ECU Health, $12.5 million for the sewer system that is Winterville, Ayden, and Grifton, $1 million for the dental school, $500,000 for the airport. My name is Tim Reeder, running for North Carolina House. I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Claire Kempner.
Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us tonight. Oh, thank you, Lorstein. Voters should be choosing their representatives, not the other way around. But less than a year ago, the Republican supermajority gerrymandered State House District 9 to make it easier for my opponent to keep his seat. Now he's spending tens of thousands of dollars to attack me, calling me names, because he's afraid I might win. He wants to distract you from the fact that he voted for our abortion ban. He voted to send $463 million public tax dollars to private schools. In America, we value our freedom to elect legislators who deliver on our priorities. But today, the GOP supermajority wants to take those freedoms so that they can protect the interests of the already wealthy and powerful. But by coming together, we can elect people who will end the GOP supermajority, and we can ensure that this is a place of freedom where the leaders that we elect govern in our name and for our priorities. So help me break the GOP supermajority. I'm Claire Kempner, and I'm asking for your vote for State House District 9. Thank you.
Thank you. Dorstein Brown.
Again, I want to say thank you for having us here today. I am seeking reelection for my seat. First term, I want to go back. Being in the minority has really been tough because it's hard to get things done because you're not heard. But I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep advocating for our health care, our public schools, our women's reproductive rights, our environment. And I know that things will change, and I believe things will change. I am there to grind, not to shine. I will not be bullied. I am no one's puppet. I am transparent, and my doors are always open. So as long as you will have me, and I will continue to fight on, because there is a lot of work to be done, and I'm not giving up, and I'm believing that things are going to change around here. And so I ask you, please support Gloria Steele Brown for North Carolina House District 8, and I ask you to keep Brown downtown.
Thank you. NC State Senate, Alexander Pascal.
I don't think we're going to get anything to change if we keep up this partisan rancor, talking about the super majority only representing the super powerful and super wealthy. I'm a millennial public defender Republican. I'm not running for the super wealthy. I've got student loans just like most of the people in my generation, okay? I am not running to sustain some evil dark room, back room deal thing. I think that is a fantasy that folks have made up on, and that's their excuse for not showing up for votes. They just want to hide behind their party's teams and run and say, hey, I'm not responsible for what happens. You guys can all do everything. I don't think that we should have a ton of vetoes. I would love for you to elect members to the General Assembly on both sides, Republicans and Democrats, who want to work together, who want to hammer out bipartisan legislation, who don't want to just say, hey, well, you're going to have to wear everything that comes out this time. We're not going to vote for you. I think people are sick and tired of that. I know I am. I've been sick of watching politicians my whole life hide behind their partisan politics, and I'm running to break the mold. And we can do it. But it starts with having the courage and conviction to cross party lines. And I'm asking you, as Gloria Steele Brown says, flip it, don't skip it on the ballot. We are all going to be on the back of the ballot. But I encourage you, don't vote a party. Make a informed individual determination on every race. My name's Alex Pascal, and I will be your next state senator.
Thank you. Candy Smith.
Thank you so much for this invite. I really appreciate it. One of the things I hear a lot about attack, people attack you when you're working. People attack you when you're standing firm. People attack you when they don't understand things. But guess what? I'm a strong fighter, and I stand up against the attacks. I am not afraid. I will continue to walk the walk and talk the talk because it is necessary. There's a lot of things that some people don't understand because they're not in the place. But I don't have time to play games to explain things that don't need to be explained. My time is to work and fight for you. My time is to be a voice for the voiceless. My time is to make sure that we are represented in Eastern North Carolina. It is not that we are making laws and then not considering what's happening when we look at what happens on the right and what happens on the left. My job is to make sure, when elected, to represent everybody, Democrats and Republicans, to represent everybody. I've done that and will continue to do that with your support. So I encourage you to make sure that you are making the right choice, and that is Candy Smith for Senate District 5, because I believe in putting people first. I believe in making sure that if I don't have a seat at the table, I'll bring a folding chair. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you. Moving along with our closing statements, we'll hear from our Pitt County Commissioner candidates, beginning with Mac Manning.
Thank you all for being here. I look forward to serving as your county commissioner. And just to make it clear, I'm running for District C, which covers south central part of Greenville between Charles Boulevard and Evans Street, out to Winterville, Ayden, and around to Farmville, Falkland, Fountain, and Belle Arthur. That's the district seat, the current seat that Beth Ward holds, and she's retiring from. I'm here and have been at every forum that's been offered since I filed for office last December. I want to be your representative, and I'm glad to stand in front of you and answer what questions you have for me. My opponent has not been, I haven't seen him yet. So I just want to reiterate that my name is Mac Manning, and I'm willing to serve, I'm ready to serve, and I would appreciate your vote starting on October 17th at early voting and culminated on November the 5th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bob Edwards.
Again, thank you for coming tonight and for organizing this opportunity for us all. Running for office is in some ways a little bit like applying for a job. And so when I think about a job like that, think about a job description, preferred qualifications, and I think that I have a lot of those. I've worked for county government in housing and community development offices. I've worked for a nonprofit community action program, much like the Green Lamp program operating in this area. I've worked for nonprofit organizations, for local county public school system doing policy analysis and program evaluations. I've been active in faith-based social service organizations and other advocacy organizations, many of the same kinds of groups that the county commission and county government partners with. My career at ECU, I did a lot of things. I'll focus on being department chair. As department chair, I supervised 17 full-time faculty, 12 part-time employees. We offered 75 to 80 courses a semester that had to be scheduled and coordinated, and teaching over 5,000 students. I've got a lot of relevant experience managing budgets and working in the very same kinds of public, nonprofit institutions that the county commission oversees. So I'm asking for your vote, asking for you to trust me, and I'll earn your trust over the next 4 years. And that's Bob for District B. Thank you.
Thank you. NC Court of Appeals, candidate Carolyn Thompson, your closing statement.
Good evening. Again, my name is Carolyn Thompson. I am a judge on the North Carolina Court of Appeals, and I'm so thankful that we have an opportunity to tell you, don't forget to vote for judges. A lot of people skip over the judges because you simply don't know who we are. Okay, I get my minutes back because of her, right? Okay, so we're gonna be fair and equal, right? Okay, just saying. So a lot of people skip over judges because they don't know who they are, and often you go to the attorneys locally and ask, well, who should I vote for? Please do your homework about judges. We interpret the laws. Everything y'all have heard about here tonight, Leandro came from the court. Funding schools came from the court. We have been the firewall. We are the ones that interpret what should and should not happen, what's fair and what's not. Did you know that our Constitution, our state, Section 17 says that slavery is abolished, but there's a little word in there that we deal with, and it says except. Anybody want to know why we have our prisons overflowing? We also have a constitutional right to a privileged education, but we've got folks sitting on the bench that says that it should not be free but fair, or fair but not free. The same thing with our voting rights. We've got judges sitting on this high court who says that the Constitution says it just should be available to us. It doesn't say anything about being fair. When you've got judges interpreting from those lenses, we've got issues. So please, vote for judges and do your homework. One quick note, because she's going to pick up this card. My opponent, this is like my 80th debate or forum, because he said it's not a debate. I haven't seen him in the room, but look at our differences. He's the one that sponsored the voting ID bill that went up to the Supreme Court, and they said it was by surgical precision to suppress the vote. If you don't know who your judges are, please look online, JudgeCarolynThompson.com, and I'm so glad for my coffee tonight.
Thank you. Superior Court Judge candidate Jeffrey Foster, your closing statement.
I didn't get coffee, so. Hello, I'm Judge Jeff Foster, and for the last 8 years, it's been the privilege of my professional life to serve as your Superior Court Judge. and I'm honored that I'm going to get another chance to be your judge for the next 8 years, after which I'm going to ride off into the sunset. But I want you to know that I take my job very seriously. I care about the people of Pitt County. I care about being fair. I care about justice, and I care about your safety. And all of those things are important factors in being a judge. And I promise you that I will listen, that I will be fair, and I will do the best I can to enforce the laws without any kind of bias, without any kind of prejudice, fairly and equally to all citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. District Court Judge candidate Wendy Hazelton.
Good evening again. I am Wendy S. Hazelton, District Court Judge. When I would go to some forums during the primary, people would always ask me after it was over, why do you keep coming? You don't have opposition this time. And I would always tell them I started with the people of Pitt County. Those are the people that elected me. So it is important for the people of Pitt County to see that I am still engaged. I am still concerned. And I still want Pitt County to vote for me in November. So please, please, again, educate yourself on who these candidates are from the back to the front. This is your election, and you get to decide who are going to sit in those seats and make the decisions that are going to affect your life. Thank you.
Thank you. Board of Education candidates, closing statements beginning with Dasha Lane.
Good evening. Again, thank you for having me here having all of us here this evening. Appreciate it. Just wanted to say, just District 4, Farmville Schools, go Jaguars again. I'll keep saying that, as well as Falkland Elementary. But over the years, I've served Pitt County Schools. I've served on their Behavioral Health Alliance. I've served on the discipline committee in years past. I've created prevention and intervention programs, again, through Sheriff's Office. I currently serve as an executive director of a nonprofit that has also served students on suspension. But again, just looking forward to the next level of serving Pitt County Schools, serving our students, our administrators, parents, staff, and our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Workforce.
As a school board member, we serve 23,000 students, a little over 23,000. And there are 9 board members. And I can tell you that I'm a board member that will vote no on things that I feel are not appropriate for kids. I will stand up for what a child needs as well as their parents. And I will vote no if I'm the only one that votes no, because I'm that passionate about children. Any decision that I make as a board member, I should make it as though my kids, I'm doing it for my own kids. That's the way board members need to look at these 23,000 students. These are our kids. We need to do what's best for them. And we need to make sure that we're making the right decisions. You do not need a board member that will say nothing but yes to everything that is put before them by whether it's the superintendent or board members or different programs. I have to make sure that I'm looking out not only for the children, but the parents' best interests as well as teachers. Our teachers need so much more than what they have. They are overwhelmed with the programs and things that they have to do on a daily basis. And vote Worth Forbes for District 6. It'll be worth it.
Thank you. Aaron Kessel.
All right. So as a reminder, my name is Erin Kessel, and I'm running for District 6. I'm a current educator. I've been in the classrooms for 12 years at Pitt County Schools, and I still currently am in the classrooms in my new role. So I'm consistently working with students, teachers, and administration throughout our county. So I see through a lens of an educator, a current educator. I'm a parent of 2 kids who are in Pitt County Schools. And so I see through the lens as a parent, being on PTA, being at all the events that Pitt County Schools hosts and talking with other parents. And we are extremely active in our community. I help coach flag football at the rec. We are at all of our local events. We support our local businesses. It takes us 30 minutes to get out of the grocery store because we run into people all the time. So I come from a lens for our community. I believe in teacher retention, particularly for our 15+ year veteran teachers, because they are the anchors to our schools and they are leaving our schools every day because they're burned out. I believe in college and career readiness. Not every child is destined for college, and they need to have careers and they need to have pathways, and we need to provide those opportunities such as the Trades Formers program to show them what they can do as soon as they leave the school system. And I believe in being a voice for our community. Although I have things that I believe should happen, what really needs to happen is what my community believes needs to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Benji Forrest.
I shared this with another group last night. In 1977, Jeff, John O'Neill at Washington High School hired me as the agriculture teacher. And he looked at me the first day and he said, "Benji Forrest, what do you teach?" I said, "What do you mean, Mr. O'Neill?" "I teach agriculture." And he said, "No, you don't. You teach students. Agriculture is your subject. And if those students don't know you care, you'll never teach them a thing about your subject." And y'all, it's the same thing with your Board of Education member. If you live in District 9, you better be glad you've got someone who cares. They care 24/7. I made a commitment years ago that if you call me about any matter, I don't care what it is, I'm going to return your call. I'm going to respond to your email. I'll respond to your text, and I'll care about your concern. And y'all, I don't know if everybody understands this or not. That means those days when we get 25 and 30 and 40 texts. That means those days when school buses are not picking up their kids at the right time and you get 10 or 12 phone calls. I'm your candidate and I'm your person in District 9 for those because I care.
Thank you. Jennifer Matthews.
So I've talked a lot tonight about some of the work that I've done in the community. And I was saying earlier that I'm at a point in my career, I'm a full professor. I'm at the point in my career where I don't need to do research. I don't need to publish papers. What I need to do is to change my community and make it better for my children. And I've want to do that. I think that we can do a lot of the things that the perspective that I bring from my experiences, we can do those in the schools, and it really doesn't take a lot of resources to do it. It just takes a different out-of-the-box thinking and perhaps a different mindset. And the fact of the matter is the way that our students are showing up in our schools, we can only educate them so much by teaching them in the classroom. Their brains are not capable of learning if they come into the school unregulated and dysregulated. And so it is important that we change our schools and we change our environment to allow them to be safe and yes, physically safe, but also mentally safe so that they can in fact learn, so that we can continue to see the rise that we've seen in the school testing scores that we've seen. I think that when you're looking at the work that I've done and what I can do for my community, for all of Pitt County, I think that you can look on my website and see what I've done and what I can propose. But you'll see that Jennifer Matthews for District 9 is your way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes the discussion phase of our forum this evening. I would like to thank the candidates again for your attendance this evening, and also thank you to our participating audience. Before we end, I invite Norma Warren to provide a brief closing.
Good evening. We are almost to the finish line. Thank you all so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to join us here in Greenville, North Carolina, to see what we're all about. And quite honestly, like everybody else, we're about making sure we're informed before November 5th, and preferably on October 17th. We will be at early voting, making sure that our votes do indeed count. I cannot thank all of you who have come here on this evening. I was telling someone earlier, I wish that this entire gym was full so that all of you would be able to, and not just you, but some of your neighbors and other constituents would be in the house listening to what these good people have to say. Whether you are part of their party affiliation or not, it is important that we know what these individuals stand for, who they are, what their moral compass is, and what their platforms will be, shall they be elected into their respective positions. I cannot thank NPHC of Pitt County enough, specifically the president, Ms. Gia Covington-Lewis, our moderator, Mr. Robert Cool Cherry, these two young ladies, my cousin Miss Taylor and Whitney, where's Whitney? And Whitney, who have been the mic facilitators. Mr. Jonathan has been standing very graciously, wanting someone from the audience to ask a question, but Robert said, no, not tonight, Jonathan, because we are running so late, so I apologize for that. But I also want to thank the Greenville Recreation and Parks Department, specifically my husband, Randy Warren, and his staff, and Mr. Shelton. Where's Mr. Shelton? Who he and the other members of Greenville Recreation and Parks Department, Mr. Shelton, came in this entire week. And so for those of you who are part of Pitt County or aspiring to be part of Pitt County's government, Greenville Recreation and Parks Department came in this entire week to make sure the sound was stellar for you on this evening. And so I want you to be able to at least send them a thank you, because they did not have anything prior to tonight. If I have missed anybody, I apologize. Oh, my good timekeepers, Miss Tara and Mr. Taquan, thank y'all so much. The registrars out in the foyer, and we had Democracy North Carolina in the multi-purpose room with a few snacks as well. But once again, I say to all of you, thank you for joining us, to the candidates and also to the audience, because an education empowering us to make informed decisions is what we all aspire to have. And Mr. Chair, did you want to end this, or Gia, did you want to? Okay, we ready to go, I think. Oh, Miss Akila Thigpen, I'm sorry. And Awesome Radio for coming out and streaming this, providing all of the cameras. When I walked in today, I was like, Lord, this is WITN, WNCT, WCTI, and Daily Reflector in one. Thank you, Miss Akila. We appreciate you. NPHC of Pitt County, you guys are, I'm sorry, Miss Delilah, who am I? Oh, my question screeners. I'm sorry, I want to make sure those titles are correct. Miss Patty and Miss Sylvia, thank you guys. And all of NPHC of Pitt County, before you leave, don't leave, because we need to take a picture together. We're going to conclude this evening now at 8:55. I would say that I apologize for this being as long as it was, but let me also make this one last statement. In the history of every forum that we have put on NPHC of Pitt County, we have never had this many candidates reply to our request. Never. And so I want you all to know that that does not go unnoticed, because what it also says is that you understand our vote matters. Okay? Thank you all. Have a good night.
Hold it now. Woo. This is a demo track. Hold it now. What you gonna play? So whatsoever I say. Hold it now.